ora tātou.
Te mana whakawa.
Nuk Karaka.
A tēnā koe e te mana whakawa. E mihi atu kia koe. Huri no e te whare nei. Tēnā koutou. Tēnei te mihi o te whanauka o te waka o Takitimu. Kaha nunu. E mihi atu kia koutou. E te mana whakawa, I take this call for second reading of the Papawai Kaikokirikiri Trust Amendment Bill. I first of all want to congratulate the Member of Parliament for Wairapa for bringing this bill to Parliament, and also acknowledge the MP for Ikaro Rāwhiti and our previous speaker, who gave us a very good overview of both Papawai and Kaikokirikiri. Mr. Speaker, I also want to acknowledge my fellow members of the Māori Affairs Select Committee who have worked really constructively on this bill. And the other part is that those that did submit, there were very few submitters, but it was really important, sir, that we did hear, particularly from the Trust and Rangitani Tūmaira. And I think the important things too that came out of that was the fact around the Te Reo Māori version, and the other part of it really was to make this fit for purpose for the 21st century. So the Māori Affairs Select Committee looked at this bill, and we continually will after this second reading, particularly around the committee stage. But sir, one thing that I think that's really important, and it was touched on very quickly by previous speakers, but just to cut across a couple of amendments that we have actually recommended for the bill. And one of them, sir, is actually around an issue that has arisen in that the Attorney General had issued a report under the Bill of Rights Act. And under that, sir, it concluded that one provision in this bill is actually inconsistent with the Bill of Rights Act 1990. The issue here centres around the provisions in the bill itself, which requires a member's position on the Trust Board to be vacated in certain circumstances. And these circumstances, just to sort of highlight them, that they include members of the Trust Board becoming a subject to a compulsory treatment order. That was the first one. The second one, becoming a special patient under the Mental Health Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Act, 1992, and the other one was having an order made about them under the Protection of Personal and Property Rights Act, 1988. I thought that this one here, which was a really important part, sir, particularly around the report that came back from the Attorney General. These provisions are obviously well-intentioned within the bill itself, but the intention is to ensure that if a person no longer has the capacity to carry out the work of a board member, they are removed and their position is replaced. That's where the issue lies. However, the issue with the provisions as originally drafted is that in the fact compulsory treatment orders under the Mental Health Act do not by themselves signify that someone lacks the capacity for a particular position. So as originally drafted, this bill used these orders in a way that was not intended in the Mental Health Act and would therefore potentially invalidate the position of a board member who became subject to such an order but who was still perfectly capable of carrying out his or her position. And so this is what caused this provision to fall afoul of the Bill of Rights Act, and particularly the right to be free from discrimination. So that is one sort of amendment, sir, that we looked at, was discussed, and particularly after receiving the advice from the Attorney General's office. Sir, there was another one I think that is worth highlighting, and this one particularly is bringing this trust into the 21st century, making it fit for purpose, and it's section 15 of the bill, and we believe that the intention of the Trust Board, while the Board wants to have more control over its investments, including the ability to diversify its investments to improve or better provide rather for its beneficiaries, the bill has originally drafted would have limited the Trust Board in investing in land. So what we recommended as another amendment, that they take out one of the clauses, particularly which just specifically actually signifies that it can only actually invest in land. And what we did is actually put another clause in, or recommended another clause go in, where the investment can be more than just land. It can actually be a number of diversified sort of investment products right across the board. So in saying that, sir, they are the two sort of main amendments, recommended amendments that I'm just highlighting here in the second reading. I think sir, the other parts of it are particularly around this situation about whānau, about whānau of Wairapa, and it was actually an issue which was considered within the language of the bill, and particularly just very quickly to say around the submission from the Rangitāne to Maira Trust, and particularly around the Te Reo Māori version, but particularly around opening it up more instead of being specific about certain whānau that were going to be sort of beneficiaries under this, that it actually extended it out further to talk about more around the whānau of Wairapa. So that's another one of the sort of recommendations that we've made, is about not just specifically, but ko tahitaka right across the board of Wairapa. So, sir, they are the two, they are the amendments that I wanted to profile here today on the second reading, and I commend this bill to the House. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Davis.